Welcome to Between Sundays, the podcast where we have conversations that simply need to be had. I'm especially excited for this episode. I have with me, of course, Maxine Higgins.
Hey, everybody.
Who is our co-host here, and couldn't do this without her. Super grateful. But we've got some dear friends of ours. We've got Winfield Clark and his beautiful wife, Muriel Clark. And we're super excited to have you all in here to have a needed conversation, I would say. One that's probably not had enough in church circles. We're here to talk about blended families. So, blended families. Let's talk about it.
Living between Sundays.
All right, so growing up, I grew up, and my father and my mother, a lot of you have heard me say this before, but my father and mother, they were married and in church by the time I was born. But I found out as I got older that my father actually, before he met the Lord, before he met my mother, had been married previously. And so I have two older sisters that are my father's daughters. But sadly, we didn't hang out a ton as kids. It wasn't until I was like in my teen years, mid to late teen years, that I really started spending time with them and getting to know them better. So I can't say that I really grew up in a blended family, right? But I recognize that so many of my friends and even my family on my mom's side, I have, I hate using the term step cousins, but I have cousins that are married into the family and in blended family situations. And I saw some beautiful things out of it, right? And so again, as I said earlier, I feel like it's something that we don't talk about enough in church circles, or really that we don't flesh out enough as just people. Like, what does that look like? How does it? So I want to bring you guys in here for obvious reasons. I know y'all, and I know a little bit of your story. But before I jump over to you two, Max, I would love to hear some of your thoughts on kind of how you grew up with the thought of blended families and what that looked like to you back then.
As a child, I don't think I thought about it at all. I'm going to be honest with you, because unless something is like intentionally said, but of course, like looking back at it now, like, oh yeah, okay, this was probably a blended family. That's a blended family. So I did not grow up with my father. My mom raised me, and really my grandparents, right? Because my mom was super young when she had me. My grandparents were, those staples for me. It wasn't until I was about 15, I think, that I learned anything really at all about my father, and it was because he had passed away. And so the court sent a notice that I had to appear in court for like some kind of trial that happened regarding his death. And it was then that I found out that I had siblings. And so I had 4 sisters. One was older than me by 2 years, and then the other three younger sisters. And so that was like my first kind of like, what in the world is going on? And so we tried to connect here and there, but it just didn't, we didn't sustain anything. We were Facebook friends, like that kind of thing, Instagram friends, and we met a couple times, but worlds were just so different. We were just such different people, so it never kind of got together. Plus, the person who connected us, I didn't even know, and they didn't know. They didn't have a relationship either, except for the oldest, I think. So it was just very hard to do. And then my mom ended up marrying my stepfather when I was 12, I think. Don't come for me on that date. I don't know. I was just older. And so all of a sudden I'm like moved into this new state, new area, new thing with this guy who I don't really know. And I will be honest, I don't think we did the best job of like integrating, right? It was just like my mom had been dating him since we were 2, but he wasn't in my life at all like that span of time. So I just didn't know him. He was just a stranger. And then we moved in, and now there's a stranger here. And that was kind of it. So there was not a ton of like integration. I tried because I was just like a people pleaser kind of thing to get to know what some of the stuff that he likes and stuff. And it was just like an awkward kind of thing. I don't think he was a natural girl dad, if that makes sense, or like anything. He wasn't a bad person at all. But I think we definitely had a harder time connecting. I think his approach was much more like, that's Josie's kid, Josie's kid. I'm gonna, they'll talk behind the scenes about stuff, but not necessarily building that, So I grew up kind of feeling a little other. And then my brothers were born when I was 16 and 18. And then I saw them sort of kind of become a unit, and I kind of existed outside of that a little bit. because I was away at college. I was doing my own thing by that time, and they were just in it in the daily. So it's kind of still how I feel, to be honest. We have a ton of conversations about this. It's not new conversations with my mom and my stepfather and stuff. I kind of see myself as like the aunt instead of the sister or the sibling. I see myself kind of in that role.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating when I hear about families that were actually able to blend. My best friend grew up in a blended, and like that dad was like very much her dad, and like they managed to bring the two kids together, and that's her brother, and like they have that. So I look at it with like mystery, fascination, intrigue, but it just wasn't my experience really. Yeah.
Okay, so jumping over here, I'll start with you, Winfield. I want to start from the beginning, right? So before you and Muriel met each other, let's go back to when you were a kid. Now, first, let me just say there's a lot we could get into in this conversation, right? So I'll probably end up bringing you two back for part two. But to start off, let's talk about how you viewed blended families growing up. What was your thought process behind it?
So, I was fortunate enough that I grew up and I had both parents throughout the whole time, right? And thank God they're both alive. I had some thoughts on whether or not I ever wanted to be married, like watching my parents. That's another story, right? But hey, they stuck it through. But I didn't have a perspective on, I was kind of like you, Max, where I didn't have a true perspective on blended family, but I noticed that I saw people where, okay, they have several kids and this is a different dad and this is a different dad, or this is a different mom and this is a different mom, but they all come together. And I thought it was kind of interesting, but to me, it was like, all right, these are my cousins, it wasn't until I grow up, get married, get divorced, get married to the right person, and then realize what that means and what it entails. So I didn't really start with a perspective. I mean, grown up Christian, right? Started out Catholic, and now more of the non-denominational, more Wesleyan background. Um, there were some things that I guess were kind of taboo, right? So that was the, okay, yeah, they're not married and they have kids over here. And oh, there's, more than one father that she has kids with, or more than one mother that he has kids with. And there were some undertones of it kind of being looked down upon. But then there was also just love and admiration for the fact that they were children and they were grandchildren, right? And that part I'm glad of, right? Because that, I think, overpowered the undertones or the unspoken feelings about the arrangement not being perfect, so to speak, right? Gotcha. But I never really had an opinion on what was good or bad about that.
Okay. What about you, Muriel? How did you grow up looking at that?
I also grew up in a nuclear family, mother, father, older sister, and that's all I knew up until my first memory might have been when I was 9 or 10, when I was introduced to an older sister, an oldest sister, who was in her teens. The sister I grew up with, she's only 2 years older than me. This one is about 7 years older. And again, growing up Catholic, there were so many things that are just taboo, and also coming from Caribbean background, there's some certain things you just don't talk about. So when I was introduced to her, I had so many questions. I said, "Who's your mother?" So was my father married to someone else? Well, how did that? Does my mom know? So many questions. And she would come to live with us during the summers. When she was first introduced, she came the summers, stayed the entire summer, and then she would come eventually at different odd times. Learned that she has about 5 other siblings with different fathers. Her mother had different fathers, or I guess boyfriends, and I just had so many questions. When she came, she seemed a bit uncomfortable, and also, how can I say, she had a chip on her shoulder.
Okay.
And that's one thing that I noticed. And I started to realize she probably didn't feel welcome. Now, my mom was very welcoming, but I realized that there were a lot of uh, conversations when she came behind the scenes, whispering frustrations. And so, again, they didn't share that much with me, but I always thought about her and how she felt like an outsider. And I always told myself I wouldn't want to ever go through that. And I didn't want to be a second wife to anyone. So we can talk about that when that comes up. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my experience.
So now I want to jump forward, especially off of what you just said. You grew up saying, I don't want to be the second wife to anybody. Tell me how you two met.
We met online. It was
Yeah.
Coffee Meets Bagel.
Coffee meets bagel.
Yeah, we met online. And you want to start the story? Share the story.
Oh, you go ahead.
Okay.
Tell your
All right.
version.
Well, I don't know if you guys are aware of an app called Marco Polo. Okay. All right. So, you don't want to get catfish, right? I'm like, we had a conversation. I'm like, okay, great. Now let me see you on video. Make sure you are the person that you say you are. This is a picture of the person, that I met. Um, and so we hopped on Marco Polo and we just started having conversation, joined that conversation. It's like, oh, here's my son sitting next to him, so cute, adorable. Ronnie was so adorable. Right. And just talking about him, it's like, oh, and the other one's in the bathroom. I'm like, oh, and oh, the other one's up here. I'm like, but the conversation was great. And I just enjoyed that spark was there from the beginning. I enjoyed the conversation we had. And despite, my reservations, I just wanted to get to know him even more, so
Question. So you were married previously and then had 3 children, it sounds like from what you were saying. Were you married previously as well?
no.
No. Okay.
Okay, so you kind of got to. I was going to ask, did the fact that he had kids cause you to like pause and step back?
Oh, immediately. I paused, but I mean, I was so attracted to him, drawn to him, that I wanted to know even more. I pushed back those reservations, pushed back the goals that I had for myself, and said he's worth getting to know. Um, if it's, and I don't want to jump ahead. Besides, just witnessing him being a great, great father. Um, a lot of times, I mean, the dating right now is
Mm,
so glad I'm out of it,
mm.
dating pool. But there are just so many people out there that hide their kids, hide, who they are, or don't bring it up until much later. He proudly presented his kids.
Yeah.
And like I think it was the second conversation, maybe,
I
or maybe
think
it's the
it
first.
was.
I'm
It
not
was
sure.
like the second
Yeah,
polo.
just proudly. There was
Yeah.
no questions about it. No, nothing hidden. So yeah.
That's awesome. Winfield, what was the process for you? Were you purposefully like, hey, I got to make sure she knows early on? What was that thought process for you?
Straight up. I mean, you said it. I was just at the point. Let me just be transparent now, so that I'm not disappointed later.
Yeah.
Because I had to get over that mindset of how people might perceive me, right? Being a single dad or having children and not being married anymore, right? And I just decided to embrace it because I figure, why not embrace it if I'm doing everything I can to still be the best dad I can?
Yeah.
They're my kids. It
Yeah.
is what it is. They come with me.
Yeah.
So if you don't want them and me, you don't want me.
Mhm.
So I mean, by the second call, I was like, hey, I think I was I would go back and forth, to where my kids lived and do little weekend trips, have them in a hotel and we'd hang out and everything. And I think that was one of the times because my son Ronald was just there on the bed with me and he just popped up over my shoulder and was like, hey, you're on the Marco Polo. And then it all started. And I just, on the other end, I seen her reaction. I'm waiting for reaction. And her video comes back with this big old smile. And I was like, oh, that's great. And they just immediately, took to her, like, no. So then they were,
I
because
think Ronnie was the youngest. He was like 6
he
or
had
5.
to be like 5 or 6, and Winfield was like 7 or 8, and I think Nakia was like 10. Yeah, who's now
A
17
little earlier, a little
months
younger because she turned 10 during the summer party. So
before the
yeah,
oh
so
yeah.
he was 5. He had to be like 5.
She's so much better with the
6
dates than me. I
Mhm.
forget how old all my kids are. When you have 6, you can do that. But but yeah, probably the only I think for my oldest daughter, for her it was like, hey, you're not replacing mom. You're not mom. But I think when she got past that and realized that Muriel just want to be nothing but a friend to her, they're cool.
So
But
let's not skip the part where
oh yeah, yeah.
there's a difference between daddy's friend
Mm-hmm.
and hanging out and having a great time,
Yep.
running around the backyard playing with them at the park,
Yeah.
versus, oh, we're engaged now. And this is when the attitude shift.
And y'all gonna be in
That's
the
when,
wedding.
yeah, and this is what, then you witness the change because
How long did you guys date until before you got engaged? Sorry.
about 9 months.
Yeah,
Is it 9 months? No,
it
9
was
months.
about
Yeah,
9
9
months.
months.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it happened. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was just no question.
Yeah, but we had a great time, when the kids, all of us together,
Mm.
traveling, hanging out, traveling to Ohio to
Yeah.
meet them, and
All the family around at
they
the
come
same
down,
time
we'll
too,
have
the
parties
extended family.
together.
Everybody just loved her.
Yeah.
Like the first time I'd had her over the house when I moved back here, my other family came over. They were like, "So is this the lady of the house? Is this the missus?" I was like, Well. We still figuring that out, but I'm glad you like her.
But we'd hang out, we'd run, we just have a great time. We had so many excursions together.
Yeah.
But there was a little shift when we got engaged, and
Mm,
that's when they thought, "Oh, is she replacing mommy?"
yeah.
I think there is a bad, I guess, connotation or about stepmoms.
Mhm.
You don't hear too much about stepdads, because in my opinion, they can come to life, they sit on the sidelines and maybe discipline once in a while, but a stepmother is fully immersed,
Mm,
when they're all together, you've got to be involved in the cleaning and making sure they're in everything. In my opinion, this is my thoughts.
yeah.
But Disney has done a terrible job with representing stepmothers and what they're like. So
Yeah.
when people think of stepmothers, they probably think of someone's evil, someone coming in to change their life, to keep their father away from them. So that was my concern when we got together and we were getting married.
And I was a little oblivious to just how much she was really taking in and kind of had to adjust and go through on that level, right?
Mm.
Because I looked at, my kids were experiencing on the other side with their mother, nobody that I guess came around or who she might have had a relationship with was really in the space of them referring to them as a step anything. Sometimes it was Uncle so and so or this friend or this person, right? But there was not even an expectation of any relationship. And don't let anybody try to take dad's place,
Mm.
right? My boys have given people the worst time for that, right? And so this, I think, was just like a step change for them where it's like, oh, hold on, she's official. Like
Mhm.
she's not going anywhere. And
Yeah.
even dating up until we met, I kind of made it a point like not to introduce people in person to my kids until after we've had at least a few dates and I kind of get a sense for the kind of person you are. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that dynamic was interesting. And now I think back on it, I'm like, okay, my kids must have really seen a step change from what they're experiencing over here to now dad finds someone that he really likes and she's gonna be our stepmom and we've got to go to a wedding. That's a big old deal.
We try not to use the term though, stepmom
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We had a whole conversation, which I realized it was more difficult than we thought. Okay, what do they call you?
That's the thing.
What do they call
Because you want them to be respectful as well. They've got dad, they've got mom. So should they call me by my first name? So sometimes being a stepmom, you struggle with, is there respect here? Am I just a person in the home? What are my boundaries? And
Because
these are
we grew up, you didn't refer to an adult by their first
never,
name. That whole
never.
dynamic, especially us, or especially
Yes.
you, right? It was
Yeah.
like it was Mr. or Miss. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? But then
Yeah.
when it exactly. I grew up in the yes sir mentality, but like when it came to saying, okay, call her Miss Muriel, we both like it didn't feel like it was like
Didn't-
this feels like the right thing, but it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So
You
what
know?
did you
So we
guys
call
land
them
on?
my name.
Your
We call
name.
it my name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me how you guys worked through. So you both used a word that actually I've written in my notes that I was going to ask about, uh, the word taboo, right? How did you practically work through that taboo of grow up in this atmosphere, whether I heard Catholic mentioned, religious. How did you work through? No, this is a good thing. Like the two of us being together is a good thing. How'd you guys work through that?
With the kiddos
Well, yeah,
or the
no,
spirit
yeah,
altogether, right?
all together.
Mm.
So
Go ahead.
I don't know what you want
Yeah.
to share. I
No,
mean,
hey,
I
I'm
think
good.
is it the Bible tells you about marriage and divorce and remarriage,
Yes.
etc., and what
Yes.
the grounds for are for divorce.
Oh,
And
that's a good point.
I
Yeah.
believe truly that
Mhm.
the grounds for divorce were clear,
Yeah.
and
And
he's not
biblically supportive.
right, and he's not.
Mm.
You can talk about it, baby.
Yeah, no. I mean, first it was a conversation of, why we're doing this, right? Because they had just gotten over. Actually, if you think about it, they'd had about 4 years getting over the fact that mom and dad weren't together, right? And just accepted it, and they saw dad often enough that there wasn't this like sharp separation. Like I was there for a couple years with them and I didn't relocate until after maybe 2 years, but I was still there like every month. spending time, right? But I did have to explain to them, this is what happens when you move on. This is why, we moved on, and doing that in the best way to respect their mom. But also, this is why I'm getting married again. You know what I mean? And to some degree, it was good for them because they could see hope out of a broken situation. Right. It didn't make sense to them. They didn't understand. But as time went on, they understood why mommy and daddy couldn't be together. But now it's like, well, then, man, this marriage thing, I think anything of it if mom and daddy can't be together. Right. But then after seeing us come together and seeing the example of what we could be as a husband and wife, I think it encouraged them and said, okay, it's not that marriage is a bad thing. It's just that some people maybe just don't work out. Right. Because what I wanted to do is do something for them that I didn't necessarily have. Before I went to college, I had a mindset that, okay, dude, I don't think I ever want to get married. Right. And I had people talking in my ear saying, look, you're handsome, young man, go the word, it was a terrible word, sow your oats, right? Go go live, right? Which now I look back, I'm like, oh my God, it's so simple. But it was like, hey, just live. Don't worry about all of that, And I was like, yep, I'm gonna go be a super soldier and travel the world and never get married and do all this stuff, which clearly is not my DNA. But I just had a mindset that marriage just isn't a good idea. And I wanted to change that for my kids. I didn't want them to see, because dad went through this, that you should never do this. I wanted them to be encouraged to do it. And right now, I'm pretty sure all three of my older kids are encouraged that they want to grow up and have their own families, and be married.
Did you guys ever do you guys all live together now, or are the other children with their mom? How does that work?
Yeah, they're with their mom most of the time. They go to school where she lives, but they're here on holidays, shared parenting, things like that. So
So do you guys I don't know if you can think back to the first holiday together with you guys. How was that?
oh my gosh. So let's think. First holiday after we were married, maybe?
Actually, the first holiday when we were engaged.
Yeah, that's right.
That was pretty interesting. I think their emotions were running high.
What was it? Christmas? Was
Christmas,
it? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
emotions were running high,
Yeah.
and I know that one of the children's before we went shopping, slammed the door. Was like, she's not my mom." I don't know if I remember any of that,
Oh my
but
gosh.
the emotions were running very high right before the marriage. But now, I mean, it's just a beautiful
Yeah.
blending of the family. Whenever they're here, it's a beautiful blending of everyone
Yeah.
together.
They
We
love their
just
siblings. Their
yeah.
little siblings love them. There's like no resentment. And one of the things that I was really concerned about is, them seeing that their siblings have dad at a time that they didn't have dad, and kind of resenting that and thinking about, well, how would things be different for me? But I think we've done a good job together of just making them feel just as loved, because even though they're big kids now and they're teens, they kind of still need like that love, like that little kid love. I don't know how to explain it, that dad just takes them and we go for a ride and talk and it's nobody else, and we go get ice cream and we just chill, even my 17-year-old. And so I had to kind of approach it differently, where you can't think of it as, all right, they're older now, they don't need as much attention. No, they need a different type of attention now.
That's good.
And you have to make up for it. And I shouldn't use the word makeup, but you got to fill those spaces in different ways, because a lot of them, they grew up so independent as a result. They're super independent kids, right? My older ones, and my little ones are too, but they don't have to be. They just are that. I think they get it from their mom, but the older ones, they just are, right? But it's just helping them understand, hey, you don't have to be so independent.
You make sure
we're
that they're
here.
included in everything
Yes.
together. I mean, understandably, the older kids, they have different desires for entertainment than the younger ones, but we just make sure they're included in every single thing together. And Winfield also does a good job with spending one-on-one time with each one of them, from the oldest to the youngest. He makes sure that they have that time. But since they are in Ohio, the majority of the time, he makes sure that each one of them, he'll spend a special day with them.
When they come,
When
I
they
try
come.
to, if we can break away, because it's like when they get older, right? You got a gap from, 13 to 2. Actually, you got a gap from 17 to 2, right? But probably the smallest gap is from 13 to 6. So a minimum 7 years, right? Between my youngest of the first set and my oldest of this set, right? And so they don't always want to do everything together. We might want to play like a strategy game or play Monopoly or something, or Catan. And it's like, all right, the little kids are grabbing the pieces and running off and throwing them on the floor. And like that time is limited. It's not every day when we're together. So it's like, all right, they really just want that time to play this game with Dad and Muriel.
Yeah.
So we just have to sometimes make amends where, maybe somebody can watch the little kids so we can do these things together, and then we can all do stuff together. Like they're great about, because they have a lot of siblings on the other end too.
Mhm.
They have 4 siblings on one end and then 3 siblings here. They're in the middle of 10 whole kids,
Yes.
which actually there was a moment where, and I came to the realization, I think it was a God moment where I'd spoke to my ex and I'd spoke to her boyfriend at the time who was living there. And I said, hey, listen, man, there's 10 kids between all of us. We got to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
We really don't have time for silly beef.
Mm.
Let's get on the same page. You want to raise your kids in God? I want to do the same thing. Let's work together on this, And I think that helped. It kind of made a step change where there's still some bumps in the road, yeah, but there was a lot more cordiality, which is what they needed,
Yeah.
I think
So
it's so important, like some of the stuff that you're saying, it's just like there has to be a level of intentionality in this space. And I think sometimes it's no matter how old you are, there's the temptation or the risk to just get swept up in the emotions of like, I found someone new and it's the best thing ever and blah, blah, blah. And then, everything else kind of becomes collateral damage, right?
Yeah.
If you're not being intentional about what that looks like, or, you know, maybe there's an idea that the child doesn't really know what's going on, so not much is owed to them or something like that. But I think I love what you're saying because it sounds like you understood that this was going to be a change for them, and neither of you was like, well, oh well, like they just, and there is that kind of vibe sometimes, like they just kids gonna just have to get with it when like no, like their sense of normalcy has been disrupted, not through their own fault, right? And so like then yeah, so it's for us to slow down and get into their world and get into their space, like you're saying, like, yeah, I'm going to spend extra time with them, a different kind of time with them, whatever that looks like. That was an intentional decision to do that. And for you, Muriel, as well, to step in and be like, how can I be involved? Like, how do you want me to come into this space so that it's not just, well, it is what it is. They'll get used to it somehow, somewhere. And I think that's where we get so much tension and so much lost time and like not really understanding the value of what a new person could bring to the space.
So when we look biblically, one might think at first surface level, like, oh, the Bible doesn't speak to a whole lot of blended families. It's in there. You got to look for it, though, right? So we look at, you look Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and you see these blended families coming together, right? Now, one that I want to bring up real quick and launch into a little bit of a discussion, get to Jacob and Joseph, right? And there was this very clear, Joseph was the favorite son, right? So I want to ask the question first to Muriel. How did you get around favorites, right? How did you get around the your kids and my kids? And like, no, these are our kids. How did you deal with that going in? You were the one who had not been married, who did not have kids, and coming in and saying, like, I'm going to love on these kids as if they were mine. How did you get there?
It wasn't a question of getting there. It was a question of doing it, just showing them love and showing them that they're welcome, that they're accepted, that I don't think of them any other way. They're my kids. They're my kids as well. My bonus kids, and I don't want to use the term, stepchild or anything like that. I don't want them, that term to me almost feels less than, so the point is always making them feel welcome, accepted, included in everything that we're doing, that I care. I do take a somewhat of a backseat approach and let Winfield do a lot of the leading. Um, and, if there is any concerns, we talk about it together and then we talk about it with the children.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't want to be that type A person that came in is like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna no. I want to make them to feel comfortable. I'm the type of person that needs to process before action, right? So I give them time to process and get comfortable with me. Again, not forcing myself on them. But if they need anything, I'm here, letting them know I'm here. So yeah.
I just
This
got to say, too, I got to take my hat off to you because I think you were just super patient. And I think you did an amazing job of just making them feel welcome. And I'm still just realizing how much of an adjustment she had to make behind the scenes. I think it was like one day that you came to me and you were like, "Hey, do you understand that, what I'm going through, and that I don't know if you know, but I had this run in with your daughter and you didn't see it, and this is things going on, and I'm feeling," and I mean, it was little things that she would do, and I look back and I realized, like, before they came, we have a room in the house for them, right? It's theirs, right? It's always there, even when no one's in it, it's waiting for them to come, right? And she would go change the sheets, wash the bedspread, get everything ready for them to come. And I didn't even know she was doing that because I'm all over the place trying to go pick them up, figure out life and everything. And then I'm go back and realize I'm like, wow, who did the room? Man, this is awesome. You know what I mean? Just things like that. I mean, just like, oh, get emotional.
Aw.
Yeah, she just did an amazing job.
It's quite an adjustment, and there should be handbooks out there for step parents, stepmothers. Maybe, I tell you, coming from not having children, to having three bonus children is definitely adjustment. It's humbling, but also it's like the best training you can ever have before having your own kids, right? I'm watching Winfield. I'm working with him as well, and now I've got ideas for the younger children that we have together.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had you guys didn't ask this question, but I told you so. I told you guys said I would never want to be a second wife. I would never want that second place, because that's second place, not first. But I tell you, I think it's one of the best positions to be in, because he learned so much from the prior marriage, and so I'm getting the best version of him. Like he's learned so much, and now if there was anything he didn't do right before, he's doing it now. Whereas I'm first time married, and my mom passed when I was really young. So I never had the discussion. I don't know how to be a wife. I didn't know certain things that a woman should know growing up with my father the majority of my life. So I could use some home training, but he had that. He had that experience, and he's teaching me a few things. So
Well,
so the second fiddle,
you're
well, not
definitely
second fiddle.
first, my lady. You are
Amen.
first.
Amen. I got the
Yeah.
best position.
So, real quick, we hear, we see, some of us have lived in the drama that could be in blended families, and we could spend a whole other episode talking about that. In fact, I did mean it when I said I'm going to bring you guys back for a part 2 sometime. If you guys are enjoying this episode, comment part 2, please, and we will bring them back and record another episode. But I would like to know, what are some of the most beautiful things you've seen being together? How long have you guys been married now? 7 years. So over the last 7 years that you guys have been married, and then the dating time, and through all the highs, through all the lows, and being in a blended family, what are some of the most beautiful things that stick out to you? I'll start with you, Winfield.
Oh man. When I see just how my kids love and respect her, um how when we all come together, just what it looks like, right? Like every time we come back together, somebody's grown a shoe size or a different size of clothes, or looks different, or somebody's getting whiskers on their face or something. I mean, there's always some type of metamorphosis happening and everybody looks different. I'm like, all right, we gotta take another picture. And instead of like, running to JC Penney or whatever, I'm like, we got good phones and stuff. We're just gonna do this right here. Who got longest arm? Who got a stick? Let's make it happen. And we take a real, just like genuine, candid family picture. And that's like one of those beautiful moments because, like, every other day, my phone does this thing where it brings up a memory and it brings up faces and it brings up time spent together. And I'm like, gosh, maybe I'm getting older because I'm getting real nostalgic and mushy when these things pop up. But we look back sometimes at like all the pictures of the family vacations we've taken together, the stuff we've done, going to theme parks, going to Ocean City, on the beach, just hanging out at grandma's house in the backyard, whatever the case. And it's like, wow, look how much has happened in that 7 years.
Mhm.
Like those are the moments. And like when, one of my kids is having a tough time about something, where they can go talk to her, or just run up and give her a hug. Like Ronnie just adored her from jump. My
Youngest
my
son.
my yeah, well, I guess he's not my youngest son now. He's my 13-year-old. Let's just say that. He adored her from the jump. But it's moments like that, I think.
Yeah. What about you, Mary?
For me, it's watching them all together, and watching them interact with the younger kids, um, and I think I guess when it's time to separate, then you see the love You know how they hold on to each other, hug each other, they're crying. So the separation is sad, but it's also a beautiful moment to watch the moments, how much they truly care about one another and don't want to be separated. Also, nice to have a full house. I did say though that I wanted a large family. I grew up with, well, two older sisters now, but I had so many cousins, and whenever they'd come over during the summertime, it was just so awesome, such a good time. Because most of them lived in New York, and we were the only ones in Maryland. So I said, I want a large family. I want all the cousins. I want a full house. So having my bonus babies in the house all together, it is for a good time. Makes for a great
We
time.
feel the house, we feel the rooms. There's always somebody moving around, going in and out the fridge, whatever the case. And it just feels good. Like I feel like complete when the house is full and everybody is there.
Mm.
Man, and I can only imagine how full that's going to feel in the next 15, 20 years. You got grandkids coming back, right? Like just how amazing
You
that's
really
going to
think
be.
about that. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
It will
awesome.
be amazing.
Man, okay, so any words of wisdom to people who are either getting into or about to get into a blended marriage, words of wisdom to that, or maybe to someone who grew up completely oblivious and is still wrestling through the taboos and things like that. Let me start with you, Winfield.
First thing I'm gonna say to anyone, and I can give it from the perspective of someone bringing kids into the blended family, is embrace it. It's part of who you are. That's your first ministry. That's your purpose. Bring them into your life and make them a part of your life. I go to work and I see people that I know that they have a blended family or they have kids that maybe don't live with them every day or from a previous marriage or not, or whatever the case, and they don't even want to admit it or represent it. I'm like, no, here's my big screensaver with all of my kids. And yeah, some of them don't live with me every day, but I'm still present. You see, it's the difference between presence and proximity. You can be in proximity but not present in someone's life. You can be out of proximity but fully present.
That's good.
And that's all that matters. So if you know you're present, fully embrace it and bring that up front to who you are, because that's part of who you are. That's my first word of advice. Within my second word of advice is be very open-minded and understanding to the person you're bringing this blended family to, right? And that's what I learned and grew through you, because you're so patient, right? You're so you're so patient, but really be open-minded and understanding the transition that they're going to go through and how you introduce this other part of you to them, very carefully. So
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Muriel, any words of wisdom?
I would say for anyone coming from a person that thought everything would fall into place, I would say communicate with your partner before merging, before blending families. Communicate how certain things will be handled, from finances to discipline to all of that. Your role, that's very important. So there's no surprises. And the second thing I would say is don't force anything. Go with the flow. Go with the flow. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
important.
That's good. Man, I love y'all so much. I'm so glad y'all decided to come here on this podcast. And there's so many things I want to talk about, even outside of the whole blended family thing. Because for those of y'all who don't know, I know these guys. Like we go to church together. Winfield's in our ministry program. I know Max. Yeah, y'all have done ministry things together. So this will not be your last time back on the podcast. Max, any words of wisdom, any
No,
final
thank
thoughts?
you. I love, like I said, I love hearing it. And I think that there's a space for people to know how to do it better, right? Like that's what we're gonna do. Like we're in a space where we have all these different family types, and what a beauty it is and what a gift it is for you to be so present in those children's lives and that they get to grow up seeing you as a value. So awesome job. And like it's really cool.
And hey, look, we say this at the end of every podcast to go and have conversations. And let me echo that. Go and have conversations, right? With people who are in different kind of family units than you are, all that kind of stuff. But a special note to pastors and ministry leaders. You have to have these conversations. If you're going to love and lead people in your congregations and your communities, you need to understand where they are, where they're coming from, all that kind of stuff. Because as you're preaching sermons, as you're doing Bible lessons, you've got to know who you're talking to, right? And the Bible does speak to all of this, even if you never thought to look for it in there, right? So rightly divide the word of God, obviously, right? But have the conversations, get to know people. I can't say that enough. Conversation is all but lost in our culture. And so that's what this podcast is all about, having conversation. So I want to thank y'all for sticking around for this conversation. Again, Winfield and Muriel, thank you so much for coming out here with us. Maxine, couldn't do this without you. So thank you. And to all of you out there, thank you for rocking with us. Contact us at betweensundays@newlife.live. Let us know if this episode was helpful for you, anything that you might want us to cover in future episodes. Until then, we love y'all. We'll see you next time.